The response is about obtaining the reward. In fact, we can understand the entire habit loop as a continuous cycle aimed at reward acquisition. This four-stage pattern plays out in countless ways in our daily lives, often without our conscious awareness. For instance, consider the habit of checking your phone. The cue might be a notification sound or simply feeling bored. This triggers a craving for distraction or connection. The response is to pick up your phone and check your apps. The reward is the momentary entertainment or social connection you experience. Understanding this pattern can be incredibly empowering. It allows us to dissect our existing habits and intentionally shape new ones. By manipulating the cues in our environment, managing our cravings, simplifying our desired responses, and enhancing the rewards associated with positive behaviors, we can effectively rewire our habits. However, it's crucial to recognize that habit formation is not about achieving perfection. It's about winning the majority of the time. Every action is a vote for the type of person you want to become. You don't need a unanimous vote to win an election, you just need a majority. Therefore, it's okay if you make a mistake or slip up occasionally. The goal is to tally up enough votes for your desired identity over time. This perspective on habit formation offers a more compassionate and realistic approach to personal growth. Instead of beating ourselves up over occasional failures, we can focus on consistently making choices that align with our desired identity more often than not. Moreover, this approach to habit formation acknowledges the fluid nature of identity. We are not fixed entities, but dynamic beings capable of growth and change. Our identity emerges from our habits, and our habits shape our identity in turn. This creates a powerful feedback loop that can lead to profound personal transformation over time. It's worth noting that while habits can be incredibly beneficial, some people worry that too much routine might make life dull or restrict their freedom. However, this concern sets up a false dichotomy between habits and freedom. In reality, good habits create freedom by automating the mundane aspects of life, freeing up mental resources for more important tasks and decisions. Consider financial habits, for instance. Good financial habits like regularly saving a portion of your income or tracking your expenses might seem restrictive in the short term. However, these habits ultimately create more freedom by providing financial stability and options in the long run. Similarly, good health habits might require some discipline initially, but they provide the energy and vitality needed to fully engage in life's experiences. In essence, habits are tools that can be leveraged to create the life we desire. They are not about restricting our choices, but about aligning our automatic behaviors with our deepest values and aspirations. By thoughtfully cultivating positive habits, we can automate the fundamentals of life, creating the mental space needed for creativity, growth, and the pursuit of our most meaningful goals. It's also important to recognize that habits exist on a spectrum of automaticity. Some habits are so ingrained that they occur completely without conscious thought, while others may require some level of intentionality, especially in their early stages of formation. This spectrum allows for flexibility in how we approach habit formation and modification. Furthermore, habits don't exist in isolation. They are part of larger systems in our lives, often interconnected in complex ways. A single keystone habit can trigger a cascade of positive changes across various areas of life. For example, developing a regular exercise habit might lead to better eating choices, improved sleep, increased productivity, and enhanced mood. As we deepen our understanding of habits, we can also appreciate their role in shaping not just individual lives, but entire societies. Collective habits form the basis of culture, and changing societal norms often involves shifting the habits of many individuals. This perspective highlights the profound impact that personal habit change can have on a larger scale. In conclusion, habits are far more than just repetitive behaviors. They are the building blocks of our identities, the shapers of our daily experiences, and the determinants of our long-term outcomes. By understanding the science of habit formation and leveraging this knowledge in our lives, we can take conscious control of our automatic behaviors, aligning them with our deepest values and aspirations. This journey of habit formation and identity shaping is not about achieving perfection or adhering to rigid routines. Instead, it's about making consistent, small choices that compound over time, gradually sculpting us into the individuals we aspire to be. It's a process of continuous growth and refinement, where each small action is a vote for our desired identity. As we navigate this process, it's crucial to approach it with patience, self-compassion, and a long-term perspective. Meaningful change doesn't happen overnight, but through the accumulation of many small, consistent actions over time. By focusing on the process rather than just the outcome, we can find joy and fulfillment in the journey of personal growth itself. Ultimately, mastering our habits is about taking control of our own evolution. It's about consciously shaping our behaviors, our identities, and by extension, our lives. In doing so, we don't just change our routines, we change our worlds, opening up new possibilities and creating the freedom to live life on our own terms. The intricate workings of human behavior have long fascinated scientists, psychologists, and individuals seeking personal growth. At the heart of our daily actions lies a powerful force: habits. These automated behaviors shape our lives in profound ways, often operating below the surface of our conscious awareness. Understanding the mechanics of habit formation can unlock the potential for meaningful personal change and growth. At its core, every habit follows a predictable pattern, a loop that consists of 4 key stages: cue, craving, response, and reward. This habit loop is not just a theoretical construct, but a neurological reality that plays out countless times each day in our lives. The journey of a habit begins with a cue. This is a trigger, a bit of information that predicts a potential reward. In our modern world, cues can take many forms: the ping of a smartphone notification, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee, or the sight of your running shoes by the door. These cues are neutral in themselves, but they have the power to set the habit loop in motion. What transforms a simple cue into a catalyst for action is the second stage of the habit loop: craving. This is where things get interesting from a psychological perspective. Contrary to what we might assume, we don't actually crave the habit itself. Rather, we crave the change in state that the habit promises to deliver. For instance, when you see a notification on your phone, you don't crave the act of checking your phone itself. What you truly desire is the potential nugget of information, the connection, or the momentary distraction it might provide. When you smell coffee, you're not longing for the liquid itself, but for the alertness and comfort it represents. This distinction is crucial because it highlights the emotional and psychological underpinnings of our habits. Cravings are highly personal and can vary dramatically from one individual to another. What triggers an intense desire in one person might be entirely insignificant to another. This is why understanding your own cravings is a key step in mastering your habits. The sound of slot machines might ignite an irresistible urge in a habitual gambler, while for others, it's merely background noise. The interpretation of cues, colored by our past experiences, emotions, and current state, is what transforms them into cravings. The third stage of the habit loop is the response. This is the actual habit you perform, which can be a physical action or a mental process. However, a response only occurs if 2 conditions are met: sufficient motivation and the ability to perform the action. If an action requires more effort than you're willing to expend, or if it's beyond your capabilities, the habit loop breaks down at this stage. This insight offers a powerful lever for habit change. By increasing or decreasing the effort required to perform a habit, we can influence whether it occurs. Want to read more? Leave a book on your bedside table. Trying to cut down on social media? Log out of your accounts after each use, adding a small barrier to mindless scrolling. The final stage of the habit loop is the reward. This is the end goal of every habit, the payoff that satisfies the craving and completes the cycle. Rewards serve a dual purpose: they provide immediate gratification and they teach us which actions are worth repeating in the future. The immediate satisfaction of a craving is what makes habits so powerful. When you check your phone and find an interesting message, the brief moment of entertainment or connection reinforces the habit. When you take a sip of coffee and feel that first jolt of caffeine, your brain logs that action as worth repeating. But rewards do more than just satisfy momentary desires. They play a crucial role in the learning process that underlies habit formation. Our brains are essentially reward detectors, constantly scanning our experiences to identify which actions lead to pleasurable outcomes. This feedback mechanism helps us distinguish between useful and useless behaviors, gradually shaping our habits over time. Understanding this four-stage habit loop provides a framework for analyzing and modifying our behaviors. If any of these four components is insufficient, a behavior will fail to become a habit. Without a clear cue, a habit won't start. Without a strong enough craving, there's no motivation to act. If the response is too difficult, it won't be performed. And if the reward fails to satisfy, there's no reason to repeat the behavior. This loop isn't just an occasional occurrence, it's an endless cycle that's running every moment we're alive. Our brains are constantly scanning the environment, predicting outcomes, trying responses, and learning from the results. Most of the time, this process happens so quickly and automatically that we're not even aware of it. We can think of the habit loop as having two distinct phases: the problem phase and the solution phase. The problem phase, which includes the cue and craving, is when we recognize that something needs to change. The solution phase, comprising the response and reward, is when we take action to bring about that change. This perspective illuminates a fundamental truth about human behavior: all of our actions are ultimately driven by the desire to solve problems. Sometimes the problem is that we notice something good and want to obtain it. Other times we're experiencing discomfort and want to alleviate it. In either case, habits form as our brains learn efficient ways to address these recurring situations. Consider some common scenarios. You hear your phone buzz cue, which triggers a desire to know what the message says, craving. You pick up your phone and read the text response, satisfying your curiosity reward. Or perhaps you're working on a challenging project cue and start to feel overwhelmed, craving for relief. You might bite your nails response as a way to relieve stress, reward. These examples illustrate how deeply ingrained habits can become. By the time we reach adulthood, many of our habits are so automatic that we hardly notice them. We don't think about which shoe we tie first in the morning, or the fact that we always turn right when we leave our driveway. These patterns of behavior have become so deeply encoded in our neural pathways that they occur without conscious thought. This automaticity is both a blessing and a curse. On one hand, it allows us to navigate much of our daily lives efficiently, freeing up mental resources for more complex tasks. On the other hand, it can lead us to perpetuate behaviors that may not serve us well in the long run. The key to harnessing the power of habits lies in becoming more aware of these automatic processes. By shining a light on the cues that trigger our behaviors, the cravings that drive them, the responses we've learned, and the rewards we receive, we can begin to exert more conscious control over our actions. This doesn't mean we need to eliminate automaticity altogether. That would be exhausting and counterproductive. Instead, the goal is to ensure that our automatic behaviors are aligned with our long-term goals and values. We want to cultivate habits that serve us, not ones that hinder our growth or happiness. Changing habits isn't easy, but understanding the habit loop gives us a roadmap for transformation. We can work on each component of the loop to reshape our behaviors. 1. Cues. We can manage our environment to reduce exposure to cues that trigger undesirable habits and increase exposure to cues that prompt positive behaviors. 2. Cravings. We can reframe our mental associations to link desired behaviors with positive emotions and outcomes. 3. Response. We can make good habits easier to do and bad habits more difficult, tilting the scales in favor of positive behaviors. 4. Rewards, we can engineer immediate rewards for good habits to make them more satisfying in the short term. It's important to note that habit change is not about achieving perfection. It's about consistently making choices that align with the person we want to become. Every action is a vote for the type of person we wish to be. We don't need to win every vote, but we need to win the majority to see real change. Moreover, habits don't exist in isolation. They're part of larger systems in our lives, often interconnected in complex ways. Changing one habit can have ripple effects, influencing other behaviors and aspects of our lives. This interconnectedness can work in our favor sometimes. Changing one keystone habit can lead to a cascade of positive changes across various areas of life. As we work on our habits, it's crucial to approach the process with patience and self-compassion. Habit formation and change take time. Our brains require repeated experiences to forge new neural pathways and strengthen them to the point of automaticity. This process can't be rushed, but it can be guided. It's also worth considering the broader implications of habit formation beyond individual behavior. Collective habits form the basis of culture, and societal change often involves shifting the habits of many individuals. By understanding and mastering our own habits, we not only improve our personal lives but potentially contribute to positive changes on a larger scale. In conclusion, the science of habit formation offers powerful insights into human behavior and personal growth. By understanding the habit loop of cue, craving, response, and reward, we gain a framework for analyzing and modifying our automatic behaviors. This knowledge empowers us to shape our habits intentionally, aligning our automatic behaviors with our deepest values and aspirations. The journey of habit change is not about achieving perfection or adhering to rigid routines. It's about making consistent, small choices that compound over time, gradually sculpting us into the individuals we aspire to be. It's a process of continuous growth and refinement, where each small action is a vote for our desired identity. As we navigate this process, we must approach it with patience, self-compassion, and a long-term perspective. Meaningful change doesn't happen overnight, but through the accumulation of many small, consistent actions over time. By focusing on the process rather than just the outcome, we can find joy and fulfillment in the journey of personal growth itself. Ultimately, mastering our habits is about taking control of our own evolution. It's about consciously shaping our behaviors, our identities, and by extension, our lives. In doing so, we don't just change our routines, we change our worlds, opening up new possibilities and creating the freedom to live life on our own terms. The power of habit formation lies not just in its ability to automate our behaviors, but in its potential to transform who we are and who we can become. The human mind is a marvel of efficiency, constantly working to streamline our experiences and behaviors. At the heart of this process lies the formation of habits, automatic behaviors that allow us to navigate the complexities of daily life with minimal conscious effort. Understanding the mechanics of habit formation not only provides fascinating insights into human behavior, but also offers powerful tools for personal growth and transformation. The foundation of habit formation rests on a simple yet profound four-step process: cue, craving, response, and reward. This habit loop is the backbone of every habit, from the most trivial to the most impactful. By understanding and manipulating these four components, we gain the ability to shape our behaviors intentionally, cultivating habits that serve our goals and dismantling those that hinder us. Let's delve deeper into each stage of the habit loop and explore how we can leverage this knowledge to create positive change in our lives. The cue is the trigger that initiates a habit. It can be anything in our environment that our brain associates with a particular behavior. The ping of a smartphone notification, the smell of coffee in the morning, or the sight of your running shoes by the door, these are all potential cues that set a habit in motion. Importantly, cues are neutral in themselves. It's our interpretation of them that gives them power. To harness the power of cues, we need to make them obvious for habits we want to cultivate and invisible for those we wish to break. This might involve strategically placing items in our environment to prompt desired behaviors or removing triggers that lead to unwanted actions. For instance, if you want to read more, leaving a book on your bedside table creates a clear cue. Conversely, if you're trying to cut down on social media use, keeping your phone out of sight while working can help reduce the temptation to check it constantly. The craving is the motivational force behind every habit. It's not the habit itself that we crave, but the change in state it promises. When we see a notification on our phone, we don't actually crave the act of checking it, we crave the potential nugget of information or connection it might provide. Understanding this distinction is crucial, because it highlights the emotional and psychological underpinnings of our habits. To make habits more attractive, we can bundle them with activities we already enjoy or reframe them to highlight their benefits. For example, if you struggle to exercise regularly, you might pair your workout with listening to your favorite podcast, creating a more appealing package. Alternatively, you could focus on the immediate benefits of exercise, like increased energy and improved mood, rather than distant goals like weight loss. The response is the actual habit you perform. This is where the rubber meets the road, so to speak. For a habit to form, the response must be possible. You need to have the ability to do it. This insight offers another lever for habit change. By manipulating the ease or difficulty of a behavior, we can influence whether it becomes a habit. To encourage good habits, we should strive to make them as easy as possible. This might involve breaking them down into smaller, more manageable steps or reducing friction in our environment. For instance, if you want to start a journaling habit, you might leave a notebook and pen on your desk each night, reducing the effort required to begin writing in the morning. Conversely, to break bad habits, we can introduce friction or make them more difficult. If you're trying to cut down on late-night snacking, you might put healthy snacks at eye level in your fridge and store less healthy options in hard-to-reach places. The reward is the end goal of every habit, the payoff that satisfies our craving and teaches us which actions are worth repeating. The most effective rewards are those that provide immediate satisfaction while also aligning with our long-term goals. To reinforce good habits, we need to make them satisfying. This might involve celebrating small wins or tracking our progress visually. For example, marking off days on a calendar when you complete a desired habit can provide a sense of accomplishment and motivation to continue. For breaking bad habits, we can make them unsatisfying by attaching immediate negative consequences. This could be as simple as telling a friend about your goal and agreeing to pay them a small amount each time you slip up. These 4 laws of behavior change make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying, provide a powerful framework for shaping our habits. However, it's important to remember that habit formation is not just about willpower or discipline. It's about creating systems that make good behaviors inevitable and bad behaviors impossible. Consider the story of the paramedic who recognized the signs of an impending heart attack in her father-in-law, despite him feeling fine. This illustrates a fascinating aspect of human cognition, our ability to recognize patterns and make predictions based on subtle cues, often without conscious awareness. Through years of experience, the paramedic had unknowingly developed the ability to recognize the facial patterns associated with heart problems. Her brain had catalogued these cues, creating an automatic response system that allowed her to identify potential issues quickly. This phenomenon isn't unique to medical professionals. Similar stories abound in various fields. Military analysts can distinguish between friendly and enemy aircraft on radar screens based on minute differences. Art curators can spot forgeries that fool even sophisticated tests. Experienced radiologists can predict where a stroke will develop before any obvious signs are visible. These examples highlight the incredible pattern recognition capabilities of the human brain. Our minds are constantly taking in information from our surroundings, analyzing it, and making predictions. With enough repetition, we begin to notice important cues automatically, without conscious thought. This automatic processing is the foundation of every habit we have. It's what allows us to perform complex behaviors without actively thinking about each step. Consider how you don't need to consciously think about each muscle movement involved in driving a car or typing on a keyboard. These actions have become habitual, freeing up mental resources for other tasks. However, this automaticity is a double-edged sword. While it makes many aspects of our lives more efficient, it can also lead us to fall into patterns of behavior that may not serve us well. We might find ourselves reaching for our phones every time we feel a moment of boredom, or automatically grabbing a snack when we pass the kitchen, even if we're not hungry. The key to harnessing the power of habits while avoiding their potential pitfalls lies in becoming more aware of our automatic behaviors. By shining a light on the cues that trigger our habits, the cravings that drive them, the responses we've learned, and the rewards we receive, we can begin to exert more conscious control over our actions. This doesn't mean we need to eliminate automaticity altogether. That would be exhausting and counterproductive. Instead, the goal is to ensure that our automatic behaviors are aligned with our long-term goals and values. We want to cultivate habits that serve us, not ones that hinder our growth or happiness. It's important to note that habit change is not about achieving perfection. It's about consistently making choices that align with the person we want to become. Every action is a vote for the type of person we wish to be. We don't need to win every vote, but we need to win the majority to see real change. Moreover, habits don't exist in isolation. They're part of larger systems in our lives, often interconnected in complex ways. Changing one habit can have ripple effects, influencing other behaviors and aspects of our lives. This interconnectedness can work in our favor sometimes. Changing one keystone habit can lead to a cascade of positive changes across various areas of life. As we work on our habits, it's crucial to approach the process with patience and self-compassion. Habit formation and change take time. Our brains require repeated experiences to forge new neural pathways and strengthen them to the point of automaticity. This process can't be rushed, but it can be guided. It's also worth considering the broader implications of habit formation beyond individual behavior. Collective habits form the basis of culture, and societal change often involves shifting the habits of many individuals. By understanding and mastering our own habits, we not only improve our personal lives but potentially contribute to positive changes on a larger scale. In conclusion, the science of habit formation offers powerful insights into human behavior and personal growth. By understanding the habit loop of cue, craving, response, and reward, and applying the 4 laws of behavior change, we gain a framework for analyzing and modifying our automatic behaviors. This knowledge empowers us to shape our habits intentionally, aligning our automatic behaviors with our deepest values and aspirations. The journey of habit change is not about achieving perfection or adhering to rigid routines. It's about making consistent, small choices that compound over time, gradually sculpting us into the individuals we aspire to be. It's a process of continuous growth and refinement, where each small action is a vote for our desired identity. As we navigate this process, we must approach it with patience, self-compassion, and a long-term perspective. Meaningful change doesn't happen overnight, but through the accumulation of many small, consistent actions over time. By focusing on the process rather than just the outcome, we can find joy and fulfillment in the journey of personal growth itself. Ultimately, mastering our habits is about taking control of our own evolution. It's about consciously shaping our behaviors, our identities, and by extension, our lives. In doing so, we don't just change our routines, we change our worlds, opening up new possibilities and creating the freedom to live life on our own terms. The power of habit formation lies not just in its ability to automate our behaviors, but in its potential to transform who we are and who we can become. In our fast-paced world, we often find ourselves operating on autopilot, our actions guided by deeply ingrained habits that we may not even be consciously aware of. These habits, whether beneficial or detrimental, shape our daily lives, and ultimately determine our long-term outcomes. Understanding and harnessing the power of habits is crucial for personal growth and achieving our goals. Consider the story of a retail clerk who, after a series of transactions involving gift cards, absent-mindedly cut a customer's actual credit card in half. Or the former preschool teacher who, even in her new corporate job, couldn't shake the habit of asking co-workers if they had washed their hands after using the bathroom. These anecdotes illustrate how deeply ingrained our habits can become, often operating below the level of conscious awareness. The power of habits lies in their ability to automate our behaviors, freeing up mental resources for more complex tasks. However, this same automaticity can lead us astray when our habits are misaligned with our goals or values. The key to leveraging habits for personal growth lies in bringing them into our conscious awareness and intentionally shaping them to serve our desired outcomes. One powerful technique for increasing awareness of our habits is inspired by the Japanese railway system's pointing and calling method. This safety system, which involves operators physically pointing at and verbally calling out various checks and procedures, has been shown to reduce errors by up to 85% and cut accidents by 30%. The effectiveness of this method lies in its ability to elevate routine actions from the non-conscious to the conscious level, engaging multiple senses and increasing overall awareness. We can adapt this concept to our personal lives by creating what we might call a habits scorecard. This simple yet powerful exercise involves listing out our daily habits and evaluating each one as positive, negative, or neutral. By doing so, we bring our automatic behaviors into conscious awareness, allowing us to identify areas for improvement and reinforcement. To create your own habits scorecard, start by listing out your daily routines in detail. Include everything from the moment you wake up to the time you go to bed. Once you have a comprehensive list, go through each item and ask yourself, is this a good habit, a bad habit, or a neutral habit? Mark each habit with a or accordingly. It's important to note that the classification of habits as good or bad is somewhat subjective and depends on your personal goals and circumstances. For instance, eating a high-calorie breakfast might be a positive habit for someone trying to gain weight, but a negative one for someone aiming to lose weight. The key is to evaluate each habit in the context of your own aspirations and desired identity. In fact, it might be more accurate to think of habits not as inherently good or bad, but as either effective or ineffective at solving problems and serving our long-term goals. All habits, even those we might label as bad, serve us in some way. That's why we repeat them. The challenge is to identify which habits are truly serving our long-term interests and which are providing short-term benefits at the expense of our broader goals. When evaluating your habits, consider this question: does this behavior help me become the type of person I wish to be? Does this habit cast a vote for or against my desired identity? Habits that align with and reinforce your desired identity are generally positive, while those that conflict with it are typically negative. As you work through your habit scorecard, resist the urge to judge or criticize yourself. The goal at this stage is simply to observe and become aware of your behaviors, not to change them immediately. Approach the exercise with a sense of curiosity, as if you were an impartial observer of your own life. Notice your patterns without attaching emotion or self-judgment to them. This neutral observation is a crucial first step in the process of habit change. By simply becoming aware of our habits, we often naturally begin to adjust our behaviors. It's like shining a light into a dark room. Suddenly we can see what's actually there, and that awareness alone can be transformative. For those who find they need additional support in maintaining this awareness, the pointing and calling method can be adapted for personal use. For example, if you're trying to reduce snacking, you might say out loud, "I'm about to eat this cookie, but I don't need it. Eating it will move me further from my health goals." This verbalization brings the action fully into your conscious awareness, creating a moment of pause that allows you to make a more intentional choice. As you become more aware of your habits, you may start to notice the cues that trigger them. These cues: the ping of a notification, the sight of the TV remote, the smell of coffee often becomes so familiar that they fade into the background of our awareness. By bringing these cues back into focus, we gain the power to interrupt the habit loop and potentially reshape our responses. It's worth noting that the process of habit change is not about achieving perfection or adhering to rigid routines. Rather, it's about making consistent, small choices that align with our desired identity and long-term goals. Every action we take is essentially a vote for the type of person we want to become. We don't need to win every vote, but we need to win the majority to see real change. Moreover, habits don't exist in isolation. They're part of complex systems in our lives, often interconnected in ways we might not immediately recognize. Changing one habit can have ripple effects, influencing other behaviors and aspects of our lives. This interconnectedness can work in our favor sometimes. Changing one keystone habit can lead to a cascade of positive changes across various areas of life. As we work on becoming more aware of our habits and shaping them intentionally, it's crucial to approach the process with patience and self-compassion. Habit formation and change take time. Our brains require repeated experiences to forge new neural pathways and strengthen them to the point of automaticity. This process can't be rushed, but it can be guided with consistent effort and awareness. It's also important to consider the broader implications of habit formation beyond individual behavior. Collective habits form the basis of culture, and societal change often involves shifting the habits of many individuals. By understanding and mastering our own habits, we not only improve our personal lives but potentially contribute to positive changes on a larger scale. The journey of habit awareness and change is not always easy. It requires us to confront uncomfortable truths about our behaviors and to challenge deeply ingrained patterns. However, the rewards of this process are immense. By bringing our habits into conscious awareness and intentionally shaping them to serve our goals, we gain a powerful tool for personal transformation. Imagine the compound effect of replacing just a few ineffective habits with more beneficial ones. Over time, these small changes can lead to dramatic improvements in our health, productivity, relationships, and overall quality of life. The key is to start small, focus on consistency rather than perfection, and maintain awareness of our behaviors over time. As we become more adept at recognizing and shaping our habits, we may find that this awareness extends beyond individual behaviors to larger patterns in our lives. We might start to notice recurring themes in our relationships, our work, or our emotional responses. This expanded awareness can open up new possibilities for growth and change in all areas of our lives. Furthermore, the skills we develop in habit awareness and modification can be applied to achieving any goal or making any change in our lives. Whether we're aiming to advance in our careers, improve our health, or cultivate better relationships, the ability to intentionally shape our habitual behaviors is a powerful tool. In conclusion, the journey of habit awareness and change is a fundamental aspect of personal growth and self-improvement. By bringing our automatic behaviors into conscious awareness, evaluating their effectiveness, and intentionally shaping them to serve our goals, we gain the power to direct our own evolution. This process requires patience, self-compassion, and consistent effort, but the potential rewards are immense. As we navigate this journey, we're not just changing our routines, we're reshaping our identity and our world. Each small action, each habit we modify, is a step towards becoming the person we aspire to be. In this way, the process of habit change is not just about achieving specific goals, but about continually growing and evolving as individuals. The power of habits lies not just in their ability to automate our behaviors, but in their potential to transform who we are and who we can become. By mastering our habits, we take control of our own destiny, creating the freedom to live life on our own terms and to make a positive impact on the world around us. In the complex tapestry of human behavior, habits play a crucial role in shaping our daily lives and long-term outcomes. Understanding how habits form, persist, and can be changed is essential for personal growth and self-improvement. At the heart of this understanding lies the concept of cue-induced wanting, a phenomenon that explains why breaking bad habits can be so challenging. Cue-induced wanting occurs when an external trigger sparks a compulsive craving to repeat a particular behavior, often a bad habit. This process is constantly at work in our lives, frequently operating below the level of conscious awareness. Research has shown that even incredibly brief exposure to cues associated with addictive behaviors can stimulate the brain's reward pathways and ignite desire. For instance, showing cocaine addicts an image of the drug for just 33 milliseconds too fast for conscious recognition is enough to trigger craving. This insight reveals a fundamental truth about habits. While they can be broken, they are rarely, if ever, completely forgotten. Once the neural pathways associated with a habit are established in the brain, they remain etched there, even if they go unused for extended periods. This persistence of habit-related neural structures explains why resisting temptation through sheer willpower is often an ineffective long-term strategy for behavior change. Maintaining constant vigilance against temptation is exhausting and unsustainable in a world filled with distractions and triggers. While it's possible to overpower temptation in the short term through force of will, this approach is likely to fail over time as our mental resources become depleted. Instead, we must recognize that we are, to a large extent, products of our environment. The contexts in which we live, work, and play exert a powerful influence on our behavior, often more so than our conscious intentions. Given this reality, a more effective approach to eliminating bad habits is to focus on reducing exposure to the cues that trigger them. This strategy involves restructuring our environment to make the stimuli associated with undesirable behaviors less prominent or entirely absent. For example, if smartphone use is interfering with productivity, simply placing the device in another room can significantly reduce the temptation to check it constantly. Similarly, unfollowing social media accounts that provoke feelings of jealousy or inadequacy can help break the cycle of comparison and self-doubt. This approach of environmental modification can be applied to a wide range of habits. Removing a television from the bedroom can curtail excessive late-night viewing. Unsubscribing from tech review newsletters might curb impulsive gadget purchases. Unplugging and storing away gaming consoles after each use can help manage time spent on video games. These simple changes can be surprisingly effective in disrupting ingrained behavior patterns. The power of this method lies in its alignment with the fundamental laws of behavior change. Just as making cues obvious can reinforce positive habits, making them invisible can help extinguish negative ones. By eliminating or reducing the visibility of triggers associated with unwanted behaviors, we can often cause the entire habit to fade away over time. This strategy of environmental optimization represents a more sustainable approach to self-control than relying on willpower alone. Rather than constantly fighting against our desires, we can create contexts that naturally support our goals and values. People who appear to have high levels of self-control often achieve this not through superior willpower, but by structuring their lives to minimize exposure to tempting situations. It's important to recognize that self-control, in the traditional sense of resisting temptation through mental effort, is a limited resource. It may be effective for occasional challenges, but it's not a reliable long-term solution for significant behavior change. Instead of repeatedly summoning the willpower to do the right thing, we're better off investing our energy in creating environments that make good choices easier and bad choices harder. This principle extends beyond individual habits to broader aspects of our lives. The people we associate with, the media we consume, the places we frequent, all of these environmental factors shape our behavior in subtle but powerful ways. By consciously designing our surroundings to support our aspirations, we can harness the power of our environment to work for us rather than against us. Understanding the role of cues and environment in habit formation also sheds light on why some people seem to effortlessly maintain positive habits while others struggle. It's not necessarily a matter of inherent discipline or character, but often a reflection of the different contexts in which people live and work. Creating a positive environment is thus not just a personal matter, but also a social and cultural issue. As we consider strategies for cultivating good habits and breaking bad ones, it's helpful to think in terms of 4 fundamental laws: make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. These principles can be applied to reinforce positive behaviors or, when inverted, to discourage negative ones. For establishing good habits, the first step is often simply becoming aware of our current patterns of behavior. This can be achieved through practices like maintaining a habit scorecard, where we write down our daily activities and assess their impact on our goals. Once we have this awareness, we can use techniques like implementation intention-specific plans that link a desired behavior to a particular time and place to make good habits more likely to occur. Another powerful tool is habit stacking, where we piggyback a new habit onto an existing one. This leverages the strength of our current routines to establish new behaviors. For example, after I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 5 minutes. By anchoring the new habit to an established one, we increase the likelihood of follow-through. Making habits attractive is another key principle. This can involve finding ways to associate positive emotions or rewards with the behaviors we want to encourage. Similarly, making habits easy reduces the friction that often prevents us from following through on our intentions. This might involve breaking down larger goals into smaller, more manageable steps or removing obstacles that make good habits more difficult to perform. Finally, making habits satisfying ensures that we feel rewarded for our efforts, increasing the likelihood that we'll repeat the behavior in the future. This can involve creating a sense of progress or achievement, or finding ways to make the process itself more enjoyable. When it comes to breaking bad habits, we can invert these principles. Making cues invisible, as discussed earlier, is a powerful first step. We can also work to make undesirable behaviors less attractive, perhaps by focusing on their negative consequences or finding healthier alternatives that fulfill the same needs. Making bad habits more difficult to perform, for instance, by adding extra steps or inconveniences, can also be effective. And finally, we can strive to make the outcomes of bad habits less satisfying, perhaps by implementing some form of negative consequence or by vividly imagining the long-term effects of the behavior. It's worth noting that the process of habit change is not always linear or straightforward. Our brains are complex systems shaped by evolution to respond to certain stimuli in ways that may no longer serve us well in modern environments. The work of scientists like Nico Tinbergen has revealed how deeply ingrained some of our responses to environmental cues can be. Tinbergen's experiments with herring gulls and greylag geese demonstrated the power of supernormal stimuli, exaggerated versions of natural cues that elicit stronger than normal responses. Baby gulls, for instance, were found to peck more vigorously at cardboard beaks with larger or more numerous red spots than at real gull beaks. Similarly, geese would attempt to roll larger, egg-shaped objects into their nests with greater effort than they would expend on actual eggs. These findings have profound implications for understanding human behavior in modern contexts. Just as the animals in Tinbergen's experiments responded more strongly to exaggerated versions of natural stimuli, humans often find themselves powerfully drawn to supernormal stimuli environment. Junk food, with its heightened flavors and carefully engineered combinations of salt, sugar, and fat, is a prime example of this phenomenon. Our brains, shaped by hundreds of thousands of years of evolution in environments where calories were scarce and hard to come by, are primed to seek out and consume energy-dense foods whenever they're available. In our ancestral past, this drive served us well, helping to ensure survival in uncertain conditions. Today, however, in an environment of abundance, these same instincts can lead us astray, driving overconsumption and contributing to health problems. This mismatch between our evolutionary programming and our current environment extends beyond food to many other aspects of modern life. The instant gratification offered by social media, the immersive experiences provided by video games, the constant stream of novel information available at our fingertips, all of these can be seen as supernormal stimuli that hijack our reward systems in ways our ancestors never had to contend with. Understanding these dynamics can help us approach habit change with greater compassion for ourselves and others. It's not a matter of weak will or moral failing when we struggle with bad habits. We're often fighting against deeply ingrained instincts that served our species well for millennia but may be maladaptive in our current context. At the same time, this understanding empowers us to take more effective action. By recognizing the power of environmental cues and the limitations of willpower, we can focus our efforts on creating contexts that support our goals rather than undermine them. We can design our physical and digital spaces to minimize exposure to tempting stimuli and maximize exposure to cues that trigger positive behaviors. Moreover, we can work to create new, healthier supernormal stimuli that satisfy our innate drives in more beneficial ways. For instance, we might seek out activities that provide the novelty and excitement our brains crave, but in forms that contribute to our well-being rather than detract from it. Engaging hobbies, challenging physical activities, or immersive learning experiences can all provide the kind of stimulation our brains seek, without the negative consequences associated with many modern sources of supernormal stimuli. In conclusion, the journey of habit change is a complex but fascinating one, deeply rooted in our evolutionary history and profoundly influenced by our modern environment. By understanding the mechanisms behind habit formation and persistence, we can develop more effective strategies for personal growth and self-improvement. The key lies not in heroic feats of willpower, but in thoughtful design of our environments and routines to align with our goals and values. Through this approach, we can harness the power of our habits to create lasting positive change in our lives. The intricate relationship between human behavior, habit formation, and the food industry reveals fascinating insights into the nature of desire and consumption in our modern world. At the heart of this relationship lies the powerful influence of dopamine, a neurotransmitter that plays a crucial role in motivation, reward, and habit formation. The food science industry has harnessed our biological predispositions to create products that are irresistibly attractive to consumers. By manipulating factors such as texture, flavor, and sensory experience, food scientists have developed techniques to make processed foods exceptionally appealing. The concept of dynamic contrast. In food, the combination of different sensations like crunchiness and creaminess keeps our brains engaged and interested, encouraging continued consumption beyond the point of satiety. This optimization of food products extends to finding the perfect bliss point, a precise balance of salt, sugar, and fat that maximizes palatability and appeal. The result is a category of hyper-palatable foods that effectively hijack our reward systems, leading to overconsumption and potentially contributing to issues like obesity and related health problems. The power of these engineered foods lies in their ability to trigger dopamine release in our brains. Dopamine, once thought to be primarily associated with pleasure, is now understood to play a complex role in motivation, learning, and anticipation of rewards. Crucially, dopamine is released not just when we experience pleasure, but also when we anticipate it. This anticipatory aspect of dopamine release is key to understanding why certain habits, including those related to food consumption, can become so deeply ingrained and difficult to break. The dopamine-driven feedback loop that underlies habit formation extends far beyond food. In our modern society, we are surrounded by highly engineered versions of reality that are more attractive and stimulating than anything our ancestors encountered. From carefully crafted advertisements to the instant gratification of social media likes, these supernormal stimuli exploit our natural inclinations and drive us towards excessive behaviors in shopping, social media use, and various forms of entertainment. The trend towards more concentrated rewards and more enticing stimuli is likely to continue, presenting ever greater challenges to our ability to regulate our behavior and make healthy choices. Junk food, hard liquor, and video games are all examples of how natural rewards have been concentrated and amplified in ways that make them particularly hard to resist. Understanding the role of dopamine in craving and habit formation provides valuable insights for those seeking to change their behavior or break undesirable habits. The key realization is that it's the anticipation of reward, not necessarily the reward itself, that drives much of our behavior. This explains why the excitement of planning a vacation can sometimes exceed the enjoyment of the trip itself, or why the anticipation of a special event can be more thrilling than the event itself. This knowledge can be leveraged to make positive habits more attractive and thus more likely to stick. By finding ways to increase the anticipation of rewards associated with beneficial behaviors, we can harness the power of our dopamine system to work in our favor. Similarly, understanding the role of environmental cues in triggering cravings can help us design our surroundings to support our goals rather than undermine them. The challenge we face is significant. Our brains, evolved in an environment of scarcity, are now confronted with abundance and hyperstimulation at every turn. The very mechanisms that once ensured our survival, like the drive to consume calorie-dense foods, can now lead us astray in a world of plenty. However, by understanding these mechanisms, we gain the power to make informed choices and design strategies to align our behavior with our long-term goals and values. As we navigate this landscape of engineered experiences and supernormal stimuli, it's crucial to maintain awareness of how our environments and choices are shaping our habits. By consciously designing our surroundings and routines to support positive behaviors, we can work with our dopamine systems rather than against them. This might involve creating rewarding rituals around healthy activities, finding ways to make beneficial habits more immediately gratifying, or structuring our environments to minimize exposure to tempting cues. Moreover, this understanding calls for a broader societal conversation about the ethics of designing products and experiences that exploit our psychological vulnerabilities. As our ability to create irresistible stimuli grows, so too does our responsibility to consider the long-term impacts on individual and public health. In conclusion, the interplay between our ancient reward systems and our modern, engineered environment presents both challenges and opportunities. By deepening our understanding of the dopamine-driven processes underlying habit formation and craving, we equip ourselves with powerful tools for personal growth and societal progress. The key lies in harnessing these insights to create environments and habits that support our well-being, while remaining mindful of the potent forces shaping our desires and behaviors in the modern world. In our modern world, we find ourselves surrounded by an array of products and experiences meticulously designed to captivate our attention and spark our desires. At the forefront of this phenomenon is the food industry, where science and consumer psychology intersect to create irresistible edibles that keep us coming back for more. But this is just the tip of the iceberg in a society increasingly shaped by supernormal stimuli and engineered experiences that exploit our deepest biological drives. The food science industry has elevated the creation of appealing products to an art form, investing millions in research to perfect every aspect of the eating experience. From the satisfying crunch of a potato chip to the fizz of a soda, no detail is too small to escape scrutiny. The concept of aura sensation, how a food feels in your mouth, has become a key focus, with entire departments dedicated to optimizing this sensory experience. Consider the humble French fry, a seemingly simple food that embodies this approach. Its appeal lies in the contrast between its crispy exterior and soft interior, a combination that lights up our pleasure centers with each bite. This principle of dynamic contrast is a powerful tool in the food scientist's arsenal, creating products that offer a variety of sensations in a single item. The gooey cheese atop a crisp pizza crust, or the interplay between a crunchy cookie and its creamy filling, are prime examples of this strategy in action. These techniques serve a singular purpose to keep us engaged and eating long past the point where we might normally feel satisfied. Natural, unprocessed foods tend to become less appealing as we consume them, a phenomenon known as sensory-specific satiety. Your brain gradually loses interest in the repetitive sensations, signaling that it's time to stop eating. However, Foods high in dynamic contrast circumvent this natural mechanism, maintaining novelty and interest bite after bite. The ultimate goal of this scientific approach to food design is to find the bliss point, that perfect balance of salt, sugar, and fat that makes a product irresistible to the human palate. This combination triggers a powerful response in our brains, overriding natural satiety signals and encouraging overconsumption. The result is a category of hyperpalatable foods that are incredibly attractive to our reward systems, often leading to overeating and associated health issues. But the implications of this approach extend far beyond the realm of nutrition. The principle at work here, making something more attractive to increase the likelihood of repeated engagement, is a fundamental aspect of habit formation. In essence, the food industry has become adept at creating habit-forming products by exploiting our natural tendencies and biological drives. This phenomenon is not limited to food. Our modern society is replete with examples of engineered experiences designed to be more appealing than anything our ancestors encountered. Retail stores use mannequins with exaggerated features to sell clothing, tapping into our instinctive responses to certain body shapes. Social media platforms have perfected the art of delivering rapid-fire positive reinforcement, providing more likes and praise in a few minutes than we might receive in days of real-world interaction. The world of online entertainment offers perhaps the most striking examples of this trend. Pornography sites present a constant stream of novel, highly stimulating content at a pace impossible to replicate in real life. Video games offer immersive experiences that can be more engaging than many real-world activities. Even advertisements have become highly sophisticated, using ideal lighting, professional makeup, and digital editing to create images that are more attractive than reality. These are all examples of supernormal stimuli, artificial constructs that exaggerate the features we're naturally attracted to, eliciting a stronger response than we would have to natural stimuli. Our instincts, honed over millennia of evolution, are ill-equipped to handle these intensified versions of reality. As a result, we often find ourselves drawn into excessive behaviors, whether it's overeating, compulsive shopping, social media addiction, or other habits that can be detrimental to our well-being. The trend towards more concentrated rewards and more enticing stimuli shows no signs of slowing down. If anything, history suggests that future opportunities for gratification will be even more attractive than those available today. We can see this pattern in the evolution of various products and experiences. Junk food offers a more concentrated form of calories than natural foods. Hard liquor provides a more potent dose of alcohol than beer. Video games present a more immersive and stimulating form of play than traditional board games. This intensification of experience poses a significant challenge to our ability to regulate our behavior and make healthy choices. We find ourselves equipped with brains that evolved in an environment of scarcity, now faced with abundance and hyperstimulation at every turn. The very mechanisms that once ensured our survival, like the drive to consume calorie-dense foods when available, can now lead us astray in a world of plenty. To understand why these engineered experiences are so powerful, we need to delve into the neuroscience of habit formation and craving. At the heart of this process is dopamine, a neurotransmitter that plays a crucial role in motivation, reward, and learning. For many years, scientists believed that dopamine was primarily associated with pleasure. However, more recent research has revealed that its role is far more complex and central to a wide range of neurological processes. Dopamine is involved not just in experiencing pleasure, but in motivation, learning and memory, punishment and aversion, and even voluntary movement. The key insight when it comes to habit formation is that dopamine is released not only when we experience a reward, but also when we anticipate one. This anticipatory aspect of dopamine release is crucial to understanding why certain behaviors become habitual and why breaking bad habits can be so challenging. Experiments with animals have provided striking demonstrations of dopamine's power. When researchers blocked dopamine release in rats, the animals lost all motivation, refusing to eat, drink, or engage in any goal-directed behavior. They quite literally lost the will to live. Conversely, when scientists flooded the reward centers of animal brains with dopamine, the subjects engaged in repetitive behaviors at an astonishing rate, such as mice poking their noses into a box hundreds of times per hour in pursuit of a dopamine hit. Human behavior shows similar patterns, albeit in more complex forms. Gambling addicts experience a surge of dopamine just before placing a bet, not after winning. Cocaine users get a dopamine spike at the sight of the drug before actually consuming it. This anticipatory release of dopamine is what drives us to action, creating the motivation to pursue rewards. This understanding of dopamine's role helps explain why the anticipation of an experience can often be more enjoyable than the experience itself. The excitement of planning a vacation or looking forward to a special event can surpass the actual pleasure of the moment when it arrives. Scientists describe this as the difference between wanting and liking two related but distinct processes in the brain. The implications of this dopamine-driven feedback loop are profound for our understanding of habit formation and behavior change. Every highly habit-forming behavior from drug use to social media browsing is associated with elevated levels of dopamine. Even our most basic habitual behaviors, like eating, drinking, and social interaction, operate on this same principle. Recognizing the power of anticipation in driving behavior provides valuable insights for those seeking to change their habits or cultivate new ones. Rather than relying solely on willpower to resist temptation, we can focus on manipulating our environment and routines to make desirable behaviors more attractive and undesirable ones less so. For instance, if we want to establish a habit of regular exercise, we might focus on creating positive anticipation around the activity. This could involve planning enjoyable routes for runs, choosing workout music that excites us, or rewarding ourselves with a pleasant post-workout ritual. By associating the anticipation of exercise with positive feelings, we can harness our dopamine system to reinforce the habit. Conversely, to break a bad habit, we might focus on reducing the anticipatory pleasure associated with it. This could involve removing cues from our environment that trigger cravings, or consciously focusing on the negative consequences of the behavior rather than its short-term rewards. However, it's important to recognize that we're not just passive recipients of our environment's influences. We have the power to consciously design our surroundings and routines in ways that support our goals. This might involve creating physical spaces that encourage productive behaviors, carefully curating our digital environments to minimize exposure to addictive content, or structuring our daily schedules to prioritize activities that align with our long-term aspirations. Moreover, understanding the role of dopamine and anticipation in driving behavior can help us develop more compassion for ourselves and others when it comes to struggling with bad habits or addictions. Rather than viewing these challenges as simple matters of willpower or moral failing, we can recognize them as the result of powerful neurological processes shaped by both our biology and our environment. This perspective also raises important questions about the ethics of designing products and experiences that exploit these psychological vulnerabilities. As our ability to create irresistible stimuli grows, so too does our responsibility to consider the long-term impacts on individual and public health. There's a need for broader societal conversations about how we can balance innovation and consumer appeal with ethical considerations and public well-being. In conclusion, the intricate dance between our ancient reward systems and our modern, engineered environment presents both challenges and opportunities. By deepening our understanding of the dopamine-driven processes underlying habit formation and craving, we equip ourselves with powerful tools for personal growth and societal progress. The key lies in harnessing these insights to create environments and habits that support our well-being, while remaining mindful of the potent forces shaping our desires and behaviors in the modern world. As we navigate this landscape of supernormal stimuli and carefully crafted experiences, maintaining awareness of how our choices and surroundings influence our habits becomes crucial. By consciously designing our environments and routines to support positive behaviors, we can work with our dopamine systems rather than against them. This might involve creating rewarding rituals around healthy activities, finding ways to make beneficial habits more immediately gratifying, or structuring our surroundings to minimize exposure to tempting cues. Ultimately, the goal is not to eliminate all sources of pleasure or to live in denial of our natural drives. Rather, it's to create a balance where we can enjoy the fruits of human ingenuity and progress while maintaining control over our behaviors and staying true to our deeper values and aspirations. By understanding the science behind habit formation and applying these insights thoughtfully, we can cultivate lives rich in meaningful experiences and sustainable pleasures, rather than being driven by the fleeting highs of engineered stimuli. In doing so, we reclaim our agency in a world increasingly designed to push our buttons, charting a course towards greater well-being and fulfillment. The intricate dance between our brains and behavior reveals fascinating insights into the nature of habit formation and the power of anticipation. At the heart of this process lies dopamine, a neurotransmitter that plays a far more complex role than simply signaling pleasure. Understanding how dopamine functions in our brains can provide valuable tools for shaping our habits and improving our lives. When we first encounter a rewarding experience, our brains release dopamine as we enjoy the novel pleasure. However, as we repeat this experience, our clever brains begin to shift the timing of the dopamine release. Instead of spiking when we receive the reward, dopamine now surges in anticipation immediately after we recognize a cue associated with the pleasurable experience. This shift is the key to habit formation, as it creates a feeling of desire and a craving to take action whenever we encounter the cue. This anticipatory dopamine release explains why the excitement of looking forward to a vacation can sometimes exceed the enjoyment of the trip itself, or why the build-up to a special event often feels more thrilling than the actual moment. Our brains are wired to motivate us through anticipation, pushing us to pursue rewards based on the expectation of pleasure rather than the pleasure itself. Interestingly, once a habit is firmly established, dopamine no longer increases when we experience the expected reward. However, if we encounter a cue and anticipate a reward that doesn't materialize, dopamine levels drop sharply, leading to feelings of disappointment and frustration. This sensitivity to prediction errors helps refine our habits over time, reinforcing behaviors that reliably lead to rewards and discouraging those that don't. The power of anticipation in driving behavior becomes even more apparent when we consider the neural real estate devoted to wanting versus liking. Our brains have significantly more circuitry allocated for desiring rewards than for enjoying them. The wanting centers of the brain are expansive, including regions like the nucleus accumbens ventral tegmental area and portions of the prefrontal cortex. In contrast, the liking centers are much smaller, consisting of scattered hedonic hotspots throughout the brain. This disproportionate allocation of neural resources to wanting over liking underscores the crucial role that desire and anticipation play in motivating our actions. It's not the fleeting moment of pleasure that drives us, but the persistent craving that precedes it. This insight has profound implications for how we approach habit formation and behavior change. Recognizing the power of anticipation, we can employ strategies to make our desired habits more attractive and thus more likely to stick. One such approach is temptation bundling, a clever technique that links an action we want to do with one we need to do. By pairing a necessary but unappealing task with a highly desirable activity, we can leverage our brain's reward system to motivate positive behavior. Consider the story of Ronan Byrne, an engineering student who hacked his stationary bike to only allow Netflix to play while he was pedaling at a certain speed. By bundling the enjoyment of watching his favorite shows with the physical activity he knew he should be doing, Byrne created a powerful incentive for exercise. This ingenious solution not only made his workout more appealing, but also added an element of immediate reward to an otherwise challenging task. Businesses often employ similar strategies on a larger scale. The American broadcasting company ABC masterfully used temptation bundling in promoting their Thursday night television lineup. By encouraging viewers to pair watching their shows with enjoyable activities like drinking wine and eating popcorn, ABC associated their programming with relaxation and indulgence. Over time, this association strengthened, making the habit of tuning in on Thursday nights more attractive to viewers. The effectiveness of temptation bundling is rooted in a psychological principle known as Premack's principle, which states that more probable behaviors will reinforce less probable behaviors. In other words, by linking a desired activity like watching TV with a less appealing but necessary task like exercising, we can condition ourselves to engage in the less enjoyable activity more consistently. This principle can be applied to a wide range of habits. For instance, someone might allow themselves to read gossip magazines only while at the gym, or permit themselves to get a pedicure only while catching up on work emails. The key is to identify activities you genuinely enjoy and use them as rewards for completing necessary but less appealing tasks. To maximize the effectiveness of temptation bundling, it can be combined with habit stacking, another powerful behavior change strategy. Habit stacking involves linking a new habit you want to form with an existing habit you already perform consistently. By creating a formula that pairs a current habit with a needed habit, followed by a wanted habit, you can create a chain of behaviors that reinforces positive change. For example, someone trying to cultivate gratitude and stay informed might adopt the following routine: after I get my morning coffee, I will say one thing I'm grateful for. After I express gratitude, I will read the news. This sequence links an existing habit, getting coffee, with a desired new habit, practicing gratitude, and a rewarding activity, reading the news. The power of this approach lies in its ability to transform necessary but unappealing tasks into gateways to enjoyable activities. Over time, the anticipation of the reward, like checking social media or watching sports highlights, can make the associated necessary task like doing burpees or making sales calls more appealing by association. While temptation bundling and habit stacking are powerful tools, it's important to recognize that they are part of a broader principle making habits more attractive. In our modern world, we are constantly bombarded with supernormal stimuli, exaggerated versions of reality that are more appealing than anything our ancestors encountered. From junk food engineered to hit the perfect bliss point, of salt, sugar, and fat, to social media platforms designed to deliver constant hits of social validation, these stimuli exploit our brain's reward systems in unprecedented ways. Understanding this landscape of engineered experiences allows us to approach habit formation with greater intentionality. While we may not be able to compete with the intensity of these supernormal stimuli, we can use their principles to enhance the appeal of beneficial habits. By thoughtfully designing our environment and routines, we can create our own heightened versions of reality that make positive behaviors more attractive. For instance, we might create a specially designated, comfortable space for reading to make a daily reading habit more appealing. Or we could invest in high-quality exercise equipment and create an energizing playlist to make workouts more enticing. The goal is to enhance the sensory and emotional experience associated with the habit we want to cultivate. It's crucial to remember that the power of anticipation works both ways. Just as we can use it to reinforce positive habits, unchecked anticipation of unhealthy rewards can lead to destructive behavior patterns. This is particularly evident in addictions, where the anticipation of the drug or behavior becomes all-consuming, driving compulsive actions despite negative consequences. Recognizing the role of anticipation in our behavior also highlights the importance of managing our environment. If we're constantly surrounded by cues that trigger cravings for unhealthy behaviors, we're fighting an uphill battle. By thoughtfully curating our physical and digital spaces to minimize exposure to tempting cues and maximize exposure to cues for positive habits, we can set ourselves up for success. Moreover, understanding the dopamine-driven nature of habit formation can help us be more compassionate with ourselves and others when it comes to struggling with bad habits or addictions. Rather than viewing these challenges as simple matters of willpower or moral failing, we can recognize them as the result of powerful neurological processes shaped by both our biology and our environment. This perspective also raises important ethical questions about the design of products and experiences that exploit these psychological vulnerabilities. As our ability to create irresistible stimuli grows, so too does our responsibility to consider the long-term impacts on individual and public health. There's a need for broader societal conversations about how we can balance innovation and consumer appeal with ethical considerations and public well-being. In conclusion, the science of habit formation reveals that desire, driven by anticipation, is the engine of behavior. By understanding how our brains process rewards and generate cravings, we can develop more effective strategies for cultivating positive habits and breaking negative ones. Techniques like temptation bundling and habit stacking allow us to work with our brain's natural tendencies rather than against them, making the process of behavior change more enjoyable and sustainable. As we navigate a world increasingly filled with supernormal stimuli and engineered experiences, maintaining awareness of how our choices and surroundings influence our habits becomes crucial. By consciously designing our environments and routines to support positive behaviors, we can harness the power of anticipation to drive personal growth and well-being. Ultimately, the goal is not to eliminate all sources of pleasure or to live in denial of our natural drives. Rather, it's to create a balance where we can enjoy the fruits of human ingenuity and progress, while maintaining control over our behaviors and staying true to our deeper values and aspirations. By understanding the science behind habit formation and applying these insights thoughtfully, we can cultivate